we were in church and we were listening to all the different choirs. And again, there are many and they're all fabulous, but it is the youth choir that is just absolutely amazing. It's hard to describe. I use words like, exuberance, volume, joy. It's more than the music. It is the cumulative effect of being immersed in that. I just don't know you could even capture this with the best sound quality ever. It still probably wouldn't be the same as being there and being part of it.
Atate Mulungu wathu tifuna kukuyamikani masana ano chifukwa cha alendo wathu ili kupempha izi chifukwa cha Yesu Kristo ambuye wathu. Amen.
Worshiping at Kafita Church is quite a trip. They have 3 services every Sunday morning at 6, 8, and 10, each of them with over 1,000 people in the building and many more hanging outside listening in.
They're long services. But when you go there and you sit through their worship service, the length of it doesn't bother you at all. Probably the thing that sticks out the most to me is the utter and pure joy and worship that takes over the whole service.
On Sunday when we were sitting in worship at the English service at Kafita, there was just hymn after hymn that we were singing, and we didn't have hymn books with us, but a woman a couple of rows behind us passed one up, and we saw all these familiar songs. Their hymn books don't have any music to them. They're just the words and the melodies, and the beats are a little more tailored to their style of worship. So it was interesting to see kind of the similarities, but also the differences in how their worship is really their own, but we're all connected by similar ways that we sing out to God.
Take up thy cross and follow me, I pray.
Preaching at Kafita is quite an honor, but even more so this time, it was the first time that I had been asked to do baptisms. So they had a group of 68 young people from 16 to 18 who had finished a 2-year confirmation. One by one, they came forward and knelt and were baptized.
Chikondi, I baptize you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Stella, Kamwasa.
Stella, I baptize you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Truly a touching moment for me.
Occasionally I'll see them bring up an offering of, bananas or ground nuts or some food or something, because they have no money, like none, zero. But they have this small offering, this gift, this harvest, and at least they can do that. And really to them, that may represent a greater sacrifice than the cash does for somebody else.
After the service, we were standing in the room, not the rectory, I forgot the name of the room, but all of a sudden I'm with the senior people in the church, and they asked me to say a prayer, which I suddenly turned very ashen white.
Lord, thank you for having us here. Thanks for Kafita for being such wonderful hosts, being so blessed to be together.
But I did it, and I got through it. It was quite amazing, and looking back on it, pretty special moment.
Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
So it had been a long day at Kafita. It's It's a little bit exhausting to be surrounded by so many people and all wanting to talk to you and everything. We'd had the worship services in the morning, we'd had lunch, met elders and other members, and we were finally done. We were heading back to the bus to leave when I was informed that there was one more group that we needed to visit, and that was the widows of Kafita. So we walk over to the corner of the property where the widows have a little workshop and where they make purses to sell. And they're starting to show me their purses, but really what they do is just start breaking into song and dancing. And I just couldn't help but join them.
I haven't actually held a child before. I hadn't before going to the nursery, but as soon as we got there, the kids were kind of timid at first, but we gave them tennis balls and started playing with them, and they kind of just jumped into my arms. And even though I hadn't held a kid like that before, it felt kind of natural, and I had a really great time just playing with them and holding them and running around.
So one of the aspects that is both challenging and rewarding for the students when we take them to Africa is I purposely put them in charge of the distribution of the money we have to give away. The nursery school this year was one of the ones where they chose to give really our biggest chunk of money away to. The students had also chosen to give money towards the grandmother, mother, and daughter to be able to build their own building so that they don't have to rent this kind of old, dark, dilapidated one that they've been doing. So we were 3 trips into giving them money to build their own facility, and it's gotten as far as the 4 walls and the doors and windows. It did not have a roof on it yet. They provided $2,700 to help finish that building. Part of that money was from one of the private donors that was on our trip. The roof is indeed going on, and hopefully by the end of the year, the woman who runs the nursery school will not have to pay rent anymore, but she will own that building outright.
Reverend Patrick at Calvary Church, he was really rocking the place with his dance moves. He must have been channeling Michael Jackson or something or other. And the young people that were up there joining him, they really just, emanated joy.
When it was time for the kids to have the lunch that the widows had prepared, they all lined up in the tightest packed line you've ever seen, but no one was pushing and shoving other than to get the little ones to the front of the line. There was so much respect and patience for the process of it all.
So over the years, one of the big things that we do with the money we bring is we help buy food for blind school, orphanages, feeding centers that they run out of food. So we found the most economical way to do that is go through a local Malawian who has assets and a lot of grain and corn and soybeans, and we've dubbed her Big Mama. She and her husband own a lot of land. He's recently had passed away, but she still farms all that land, and of her own accord, when people run out of food, she makes sure they have enough. So we buy the food from her, the grains, to give other people, both to support her, but knowing that we can get the best price for it, and that comes with a very gracious heart.
Nyengo ya masika, titsate mamunda, tidzabwera tose ndizipatsozo.
This place just dug into my heart, and I got to do what I can to try and reciprocate some of that benefit that they've given me in my life.
I had some soccer balls to give away, and I started inflating them, and I was sitting next to a few kids, and I actually, they started helping me inflate them. So I would give them a ball, and because they were blind, it was hard for me to just hand it to them, so I had to actually grab their hands and guide them to help pump up the balls. Because they can't see, that sense of touch is really, it's a real connection, and that's when I could really did feel connected to them and being able to share that experience with them, even though they can't see what I look like.
On this trip, we visited Ancoma Hospital. I've been there a couple of times before. Tremendous hospital, tremendous people. I mean, these people are saints that run this place.
At Ancoma Hospital, we had the opportunity to donate blood. When I went to the hospital, I was kind of excited to be able to donate. So it was going to be my first experience, and I was kind of ready to finally be able to do something that I knew would really help another person. But when I got there, they made us fill out a medical form, and one of the questions on the sheet was whether or not we had excessive nose bleeding. And I was talking to one of the doctors, and I told her that I did get occasional nosebleeds, but when the physician saw that I did, that it was marked, they said, you can't donate blood. The third doctor, after he was called, he said, if I'm sure that it doesn't have anything to do with my blood, he said I should be good to go. So then I went back to the original clinic where we were donating the blood, made the head doctor talk to the physicians, and then they finally let me donate. It was very gratifying just to know that I was going to be able to help someone. So it was a really great experience.
We were preparing for this year's trip. One of the things that I really pushed hard to try to get into place was an opportunity to go out with a mobile clinic from Ancoma Hospital. And you drive for about an hour out into the bush, and there's a facility there where women will walk with their children, their infants, for up to 2 to 3 hours.
We had pulled up to where the mobile clinic was set up, and everyone got pulled off to different responsibilities, to mostly weighing babies or measuring the babies. I was pulled off to a separate building where they were doing HIV testing. It was a little bit of a tough space to be in, the HIV testing area, especially when there were 2 small children of HIV positive mothers being there waiting on their test results. It was tough to just stand there and wait. And gratefully they both turned out negative. But as someone who would be unaffected by the results of the test, the tenseness of that moment, I can't imagine what it was like for all of them.
The sugarcane riot. Well, there were all these young kids around, the siblings of the infants, and there was even a school, remote school on site. And so I could easily see 50, 75, 100 kids sort of running around, and the sugarcane guys there, and I just walked up to Mike, I said, well, how much for all of it? I'd buy it all. Right, and I think it was $30 or something for all the sugar cane. I just said, start cutting it up. We started. We got it all hacked up, and we had this big pile. And so, 3 or 4 or 5 of us started handing away these little, 2 or 3 cans of sugar, and then the kids just started showing up out of the woodwork. I mean, there must have been 150 if there was one. It just got out of control. I'm not sure if it was really the right sort of decision to be made, but it was fun at the time.
So good to see you, Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to going to Shambawala.
Yeah.
Yes. The Chambanwala Church volunteered to pick us up at our hotel in their bus. And of course, the bus was already loaded with their nursery choir, about 30 kids in the back of the bus. And there's a bunch of elders from Chambanwala Church. We all cram in there, probably 40 people in a bus fit for 30. So after a 30-minute ride, we're approaching Chambanwala. We're a quarter of a mile away, and along the side of the road, there's all these kids from the church, with signs that say, "Welcome to Chambanwala, welcome PCC." It was an absolute throng of kids following us. Rod Brown jumps out of the bus and starts marching with them toward the church. They're singing and dancing, and it was a riot.
All of a sudden, along with Michael, we were made elders of the church. So we were both blown away by that, and it was, a really special moment. It was great. I went over there expecting nothing, and came back to the U.S. a church elder. So I'm standing a little taller and a little more spring in my step.
One of the most important aspects of my life has been this relationship with our brothers and sisters in Africa. And every time you go with an expectation of helping them. But when you return, you realize that they have helped you. They've helped remind you of what's really important in the world. They've helped you remember that all the things that we think that we need, we really don't, and that we have enough with our family and our friends and our God. They remind me of the important things of life. They remind me of joy, and my heart is filled every time I return from there.
Usually on the last night or two of a trip to Malawi before we leave to come home, we try to have a little debrief with the students and, the obvious questions of how do you think the trip has impacted you and what have you learned about yourself and about others and about Christ and your own faith and spirituality. And this trip was my 7th one to Malawi, and it took me 3 or 4 trips to have it really sink in. But every single time we go, the people, almost with tears in their eyes, tell you, you have no idea how much it means that you come to us. The students don't really know how to articulate sometimes the spiritual formation that is happening within them, but they overwhelmingly say, I learn more about Jesus by trying to do what he does when we're with the people of Malawi.